Good job, Mr. Rod Kelly. Captain Ron right there, the cranking master. Who knows what today is? Besides somebody that I already talked to. What is it, young man?
21st
of
December.
And that means what?
First day of winter.
First day of winter. There's another name for it.
Shortest day.
I know it, yeah, but I can't
Winter
say.
solstice?
Yeah.
The winter solstice.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a little different.
Shortest daylight.
The solstice. What the solstice is, okay, it's actually, I'm going to do the McFarland thing here. Humans and our weatherman, we call it the first day of winter. Okay, well what the solstice is it's the bottom of the sunshine. It's today is the least amount of sun, 10 hours about, that we will get all year. Okay, so fall was falling. We were getting less and less light each day, less and less light. Today we reach the solstice. Tomorrow we begin to grow. Okay? So from here on out we're growing usually 30 seconds to a minute to 3 minutes. It gets faster and faster. But that solstice is critically important to pay attention when and why it happens. Anybody have any idea why? Well, you will now. If you start to pay attention to all of Mother Nature, that's Mother Nature's cue that it is spring. Today for Mother Nature, tomorrow actually, is day 1 of spring. Okay? 3 months from now on March 20th, it's called the equinox. The equinox is when we have 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of dark. It's equal. Okay? Mother Nature's cues, and that's the calendar for them. Okay? So all plants, well not all, species of plants are going to change, but you're going to notice certain types of plants will start to bloom already. Some grasses, some flowers, animals, they know spring's out. Do bears come out next week out of out of hibernation? No. Do I say next week you can already go find spawning bass on Fork? No. But as a fisherman, this is a really part of my puzzle that I pay attention to, and I can tell you every year, within 6 weeks of today, 6 weeks, remember 12 weeks, 3 months, and we're going to be in the middle of March, 12 hours or 12 hours, there's fish that have spawned by the equinox. Okay, is the whole lake spawning? Absolutely not. It's a very small amount. It's what we call the first 10%. The biggest and the most meaty fish, the big old billy fish, come up. Okay, so I'm not going to tell you where they are and what to do, how to go catch them, but I want you to
Man, I like big guts, and I cannot lie.
I just want you to recognize that spring really begins today in retrospect to the time of sunlight that we have from day to day to day. Okay, so that's pretty critical. A very big part of how McFarland thinks and gets in front of fish.
Can I toss something in with you real quick, Mike?
Yeah, come on.
How many of you guys have heard about fish and creek channel swings in January and February and the end of December? Y'all heard about that on Lake Fork? Probably caught more 13-pound double-digit bass on this lake and everything else has combined over the years. Old black and blue jig in the winter months and creek channel bend. What do you think they're doing? We all know fish travel by creek channels, right? Well, when we hit this point that Mike's talking about, and them days flip around and start going the other direction, that is Mother Nature's cue to that fish to some of them big fish that are out suspended on the main lake on trees or whatnot that we've been catching on A-rigs, on bridge columns, whatever have you, right? It triggers them to start their migration. And in December and January, we catch them in them big, deep creek channels, 25 foot, 30 foot in the bottom of the channel, something like that. And then as we go throughout January and February, you can kind of just follow them up the bends and the creeks. That's one of the most successful patterns Lake Fork's ever had, and it directly relates and is triggered by exactly what Mike's sitting here telling you about. It's a big, big, big deal.
Pretty hot stuff right there. So you learned how, last year it was different times. The timing's different every year. I got here December 2013. I went to remodeling my home. I was really, really busy. Hadn't fished the lake yet. It got to be like about end of January, and I thought, God, the solstice, man, my head's all messed up. I haven't been on the lake. I know nothing about the lake. And I looked and I went, oh man, the solstice has already happened. I was 3 weeks late, and lo and behold, it's February. I go out before Valentine's Day 2014. I'm not going to tell you the creek because it happens every year. But I caught 2 fish, a 9 and 11, that were both dripping blood, which told me they had already been digging. It was dirty water. I didn't see it. I didn't realize they probably didn't come off a bed. They actually come off tree stumps in the bend of a creek next to a flat where males were spawning, ready to spawn. Was it a lot of fish? No. Is it something you can go out there and look for every year? Once you kind of understand the timing and how and where it, and we'll elaborate a little later on in the year, some of that does come together. Yeah. But I just wanted to plant that seed for you. Today's a very important day for a fisherman, and the future to come is spring. So, all right.
Boy, instinct, they know when solstice happens.
Absolutely.
Well,
It's
you
just-
got to think, fish can't talk, but Mother Nature communicates with all animals. in
Catfish.
nature.
Catfish.
they do talk.
Catfish do
They
talk.
do talk.
That's
One
the
of them comes
first
the other day
line
told me
told
can't
them.
stand.
They know it instinctively.
No, actually, it's not
and
the first
the
line.
length of the day, but they know the shadows and things. You know.
That's right.
They can tell
Angle
the
of the
sunlight
sun, the
period is
amount,
short.
the amount of sun is
Yeah.
the main thing. Right now,
Yeah.
there's 10 hours.
Yeah.
It'll go 10 hours in 1 minute, 10 hours 2 minutes. Also, we're 10 hours and 34 minutes. And it starts to grow very little at first, about 58 seconds per day. But 6 weeks from now, it'll be growing 3, 4, 5 minutes a day.
One important thing: chickens don't lay eggs on cloudy days.
That's right.
I just found that out. That's pretty important.
You know, you got to think about it like this. Those fish, you know, we're articulate. We can have conversations in here and talk about this stuff. Well, animals in nature, especially fish, they're one of the most dumb animals by science that there is. So everything that they get, every cue that they get is that much bigger of a deal to them, and they're that much more in tune to it because their brain doesn't process as much as some
Every
of the,
nature cue compared
yeah,
to
every little thing. Yeah, wind direction, daylight. That daylight period is like one of their main things. It tells them kind of their seasonal cycles, ebbs and flows. The moon phase. That's why the moon affects fish so much.
That's their calendar.
Is because that's the only information they get.
Think of it, how does a goose or geese, how do they know to migrate September 1st, 5 years ago, and they can say, hey, we stick around 2 more months this year, we won't go till November. Something is a communicatable thing for all survivalists. You and I, we're not survivalists. I'll go as far as to say that if we could go back to the caveman eras or our Indians were much more survivalist. They noticed these same things. So on a silly note, we are Indians. I would say, Captain Ron Indian, hey, solstice, maybe start digging. We plant seeds.
Cowboy right here.
You know, come on. And so it is huge. It's a really important thing. I don't want to make it any more than that, but I want you to start thinking
But a
about it.
simplified summary is starting now, they're going to start going out of the deeps and suspended and going toward the deeper creeks.
Potentially. So my
I mean,
mind is I start looking
so-
for that. Now I'm not going to give you more fuel for that because there's things that help that too. There's more cues. I don't want to give them tonight. I want to give them in the next seminar. Maybe give them more. There's some cues that make all that go, it should be happening. Okay, that I can bet on. You bet in Vegas on certain things you understand and know. So there's some bit of knowledge. But now's the time that yes, the calling is on the fish, and some of the biggest fish, the teenage fish, will start coming and looking. They do what's called roaming. They'll roam those things. As they get warmer and warmer and progress, they'll roam in, roam out until they commit to what we call a pre-stage staging area, and they stay in that, fattening up until they're ready to finally go to the bed. and
Roaming
spawn.
is the same thing as a highway.
Yeah, roaming. When they roam, they travel.
So I'm gonna give you an
Travel, they
example.
use a creek channel.
Out offshore, now tonight we're going to what I call no man's land. So today there is a majority of your fish in no man's land offshore. Okay, I just put my boat in a graph from the 515 bridge all the way to the power lines, following the main Lake Creek in 50 feet of water, and I never for 1 second was out of shad, white bass, yellow bass, largemouth, catfish. My graph was just blistered with thousands and thousands and thousands of fish. You'll see it. That is winterized fish that in any pro, Brand Naylor just talked about this, we call it no man's land out there. You can't catch those fish. When those fish leave,
Can or can't?
Cannot. They usually are not there to eat. They're wintering.
Kind of
Yeah.
dormant.
They're dormatized. They're out there in bunches of
Especially
together.
that straight
And even
line
if they
look.
were going to eat, you got 50 bass with 5 gajillion things to eat around it. Okay, it's all a conglomerate of all the fish. Now, if you think about summer, or let's go to spring. You got spring. They spawn. They start coming out on those main lake points. What are the best points as we get longer into spring? Longer points, right? Where do they disappear from? They disappear in the midsummer, also into no man's land, which is out offshore. The unique.
But in summer,
Right,
the
let me go
tablet-
there.
Yeah, okay.
And so now the uniqueness difference in Lake Fork is that in the summertime we establish a thermocline at about 20-22 feet. There's no oxygen below, so they're forced to suspend above, which allows them to put themselves in treetops, oak trees, in 40-50 feet of water. You have hot water temperatures, so the metabolism of the fish says, I still have to freaking eat. I can't go down below the thermocline and calm myself down. So you catch them in the summertime in no man's land. In the wintertime, they're out there in that 40, 45, 50 foot. They are dormatized like snakes in a cage. But the thing is, we know where they are. Where do they come to first? Anybody? Those same first main lake points. All right, there's a real simple one right out here. You got the main creek right out here. You got an island right out here. You got Green Point right across. If you'll actually look at your Navionics map, zoom out far enough and really think a little bigger than we tend to do as fishermen, you realize that that's a huge, that Green Point is a huge outcropping like a reef. If it was in the ocean, that's what they'd call that, a reef. The no man's land's out in front of it. Where are those fish going to come to first? They pull up on the main lake points. They follow the creeks back in. Okay, so all of our fish are in no man's land. And what we do, Billy's talked about this before, is we try and find areas in no man's land that give them something to relate to. Because that's the only way, sir. They're not catchable when they're in no man's land unless you can get something related to them. If the fish are at 35 feet and you've got a hump that comes up to 33 and the fish can use that, they might be catchable if they're on it. Okay, so bridge pylons are one of the things that we do have this time of year that holds and sustains the bait, sustains the fish in the deep water. We get so many fish, they all can't be on all the bridge pylons. So today's a little lesson. First of all, you know that we've been talking about all them rigs on bridge pylons. But today, before I talk about some other ways that I fish for these winter cold fish, I want to show you something. This is bridge pylons right here. Okay, it's an underwater bridge. I'm sorry, not a pylon, underwater bridge. Make sure the camera gets that. But I have a question for you. When you look at this, what do you think you see? In lieu of the bridge, I want you to all pass this around. What do you think you see? Do you see a bridge? A horseshoe bridge? Or do you see a flat bridge? That's my actual question. Is that bridge flat? Has anybody ever seen any bridges that go like the Golden Gate over Lake Fork? Okay, so it is not. And that's the main lake. I don't have a big sonar lesson tonight, other than what I wanted to do is don't get sidetracked with this. You can see the rails, you can see the bridge, and it actually looks like the bridge is doing this. The bridge is underwater. It's flat just like the bridge that's out of water. What I really want you to note is I want to teach you that when you see these deep water spots,
Pretty sure I can see my crankbait sitting on that guardrail too.
when you see them that jammed up with stuff, they're not worth fishing. When there's little bits of bait like this, broken up bait, you can see here this bait has been attacked. It's not round and ball. Something's in there. You can see the bait on this side is kind of being bugged. So just between wanting to square you up that these are not like this. So don't get yourself screwed up. They're flat. And when you're looking at them and roads, you want broken balls of bait. You don't want the whole thing littered with bait. Okay?
Ronnie, what do you know about hitting that guardrail with that crankbait, bro?
Yeah.
I've never done that.
Yeah.
Ideal stuff for just what Ronnie was talking about.
Ideal stuff.
Yep.
You can fish it this way, you can fish it this
So
way.
neither one of these, I see 3 balls. 1, 2, 3. I mean, these are the same
That's
thing.
the same, correct,
Same
sir.
thing, but so neither one of these 2 are broken up.
They are broken up. Do you see how they're not round? Are they round like a basketball?
No, they're kind of going over.
They're elongated. They're jacked up. Something's been jacking
Okay,
on.
just clarifying.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
a simplified guy.
Yes,
so
sir.
Trying to hone in.
my man.
Y'all understand what this is right here?
I
Yeah.
Just,
You guys see this right here?
y'all
on
are
the
so
social-
advanced that.
See
yes,
this right here?
Yes.
That's the front cone of your peen. That's the cone. Like, see, I'm sitting here talking to you, but you can hear me right there. That part of the cone's getting that bridge before you get to that bridge. And you're getting a faded reading on that very first thing on the top.
So a lot of this, honestly, sir,
See, when
when
y'all
you
are,
said double bait, a lot of this in here,
Yeah.
it's a little bit ball of bait, but these are not bait. That's just rings off the top.
Okay.
Here's your ball of bait, and here's your ball of bait. This bait's more round and safe. The bait that's under is safe. The ball that's next to it on the south side was not.
y'all are so
Wait.
knowledgeable.
Makes
You're
me
so
miss
used to
my
putting
little-
it.
Right, we make it pretty quick. So,
Scientific terms. that-
yeah. All right, so that was all.
Yeah.
Starting next year, I'm going to kind of go through the sonar stuff again. I'll start right at the very beginning with the most basic, and we'll see what we can do. You see a lot of the same faces here, so it's really hard for me to dig up any more if you've already seen the beginning, the sonar, and all that.
Some ugly faces, too.
Yeah.
But I did want to talk to you about some baits that just kind of overlooked. Right now, I haven't been on the lake. This will be one day. I graphed. I felt like it was always shallow fish, no matter what. You'll always have some shallow fish, any lake, anywhere in the nation, anywhere in the world, especially bass.
Especially if there's grass.
Especially if there's grass. So right now, the areas that are holding grass, if you knew where there was grass, some of those areas, the grass receding, those are the only areas you're going to get a bit shallow, staying with route traps and stuff like that. Forced to go out deep, get in the creeks. But I'm hearing grapevine that even, that jig bite that should be good in the creeks isn't yet. I'm not sure that the fish aren't there.
But the bite, I mean, just the whole bite on the whole lake in general is off.
That's where I'm going. The whole bite is off, so I'm still kind of scrapping that
It's
between.
been that way for 3 months. hasn't it?
Exactly.
But we've had
Sir, that's
weird-
exactly where I'm going. I'm still scrapping that between an extremely heavy flooding, an absolute rapid temperature loss, that these fish really are still in a lethargic, dormantized. We're having heavy winter action out of our fish, okay? So today when I really got thinking about what would I actually want to talk about, how many of y'all remember when Billy talks about even during spring, and even this is really a Billy thing. In the middle of spring, even when on a tough day, when fishing gets a little slow, maybe pressure or whatever, he wants to put a bait that he can slow down, but still has movement without
That
movement.
ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work, man. That butt's too big.
Here, trade me. I can do it.
Here, right here.
Here, you sit down there, boy.
Here, you sit down here. Let me go over here and sit.
So, and does anybody recall that? We talked about movement without movement, okay? Which is like a wobblehead jig on the bottom. So the wobblehead's still moving in place, but the jig's not moving forward fast, okay? That's a really critical thing when fish are finicky. If I can get up in his grill and stay there, but just keep shaking, he's gonna...
It's a big fish deal.
It's a big
if
fish
you think
deal.
about like a lot of big fish techniques, Ronnie, frog's a big fish technique. You know, the hollow body frog now. Well, what's it do? You can sit there and move it without moving it.
Movement without
A
movement.
big swim bait's a big fish technique. It does a lot of this, but it goes real slow. Stays in their face a long time, so movement without a lot of movement. A jig. We should talk about a jig.
That's what we talk about.
When you got that skirt on that jig on the bottom, what do you think that skirt's doing? The whole time, Jack. And that bait, and that's why the colder it gets, the better the jig shines, because you can sit it dead still and that skirt's still moving. So movement with that. It's a big fish thing.
I love this guy. He's just like leading this. You're so awesome.
It's awesome, dude.
And then when the water gets to a point where it's real cold, even the live rubber and all that stuff starts to not do
Yeah.
as much. Okay, it is the deal, and that potentially, when you see that super finicky bite, and it just clicked to me today, even in the crystal clear waters of California, Arizona. Anybody here with a hair jig? Anybody hear about a hair jig? Yeah. All right. Well, there's a lot of different kinds of hair jigs.
Spanking Yankee stuff, man.
You don't got to be crazy, all right? When you're in the creeks, just turn to a little 1/2 ounce, give it a try. So go down them creek bends. This is what I'm actually going to do next time I'm on the lake. If I'm going to throw my regular jigs, my regular sandtone rattling jig, 1/2 ounce in those creek trees and those roots. If they're not biting, I'm going to go ahead and do this just because I know that it has that much more action. If you've ever seen hair in a fish tank, it's very lifelike. And it doesn't matter how hot or cold the water is. So I got just a couple examples of what I would use as a bass jig in the creeks in the wood. These aren't weedless versions. You're probably going to want some kind of a weedless version, but this has a little screw-on deal that you can still add a plastic to, so you get the best of both worlds. You get a little plastic trailer on it, and you got a jig. This is the one that's really popular here.
You want to pass that other around so we can see?
Yeah, I will. I'm going to pass them all around, and then I got a box of some other things to show you. This is the one that's really popular here, and I want to explain a little bit about it. Basically, this is a big hair jig. This is something we used to use for stripers on the West Coast. We'd use it 80, 90, 100 feet, all the way up to 2-3 ounces even. It's really going to imitate your gizzard shad or your yellow bass. So, you know, there's something real simple is I just want a dark hair and a light hair. I always want some chartreuse in it. But the key that I want to tell you is if anybody does start...
Drop a little product plug or knowledge real quick.
Sure, I can't read right now.
On
My
a
eyes
hair
are blurred.
jig,
So Pete.
a lot of these hair jigs, this is kind of traditional. They're more, somewhat of a finesse thing. They got a smaller hook.
Yes.
But if you fish Lake Fork, Texas, you want a big old hook. Yeah. You want a strong head. Well, Smash Tech, not a lot of people know Smash Tech actually makes a hair jig.
I didn't even know that.
And it's really good. It's got a
Sorry,
sharp gaff hook. It's awesome.
If I'd have known that, I'd have had them tonight. Again, this popped in my head that in all of my years of experience and everything, I just thought, wow, you know, maybe that could help. It could help get some of those fish that are in those roots. But again, also on those deep bites, when we're on those deep road beds, we're on those pylons, we're on those bridges, we're throwing Alabama rigs, we're in the laden, you know, school of bait moving through there. That's really what this larger Pete's Hog Farmer makes one, and I didn't know that 6 Cents does. But in essence, you're imitating a big shad with it. And I can tell you, these are a little expensive. So this is not something you're going to go throw in a main lake point with this wood.
How much is that there?
$12.99 per bait. So this is something I want to throw where it's a little more clean. I want to throw this on the roads. I want to throw it around the bridges where I'm not going to lose the bait as frequent. I don't mind losing a $3-4 jig time to time, but you get into a main lake point and you're going to lose a lot
You
of
get the
these.
Smash Tech one, it ain't $12.99.
Right.
I don't know what exactly it is, but it ain't that high.
But in essence, so, you know, kind of keeping it short with what I had tonight. I want to wish you all Merry Christmas. I want to thank everybody so much for a great year and supporting all of us.
Just hang tight for a second. We're hanging.
Yeah, we're not done, but
So-
I just wanted to button up with just a couple quick things, and then we'll summarize. I really believe that the colder the water gets this year, potentially that hair jig could be the answer. We're not getting bit because the fish are still very lethargic. They have not recovered from getting smashed in the fall.
So the next bait might be the hair jig.
Warm trend, days are growing now, so there's a lot of things that are going to happen in the next 2 to 3 weeks. A whole lot.
Talk a little bit about jig fishing. I know Ronnie talked about it some last week. Let's talk a little bit specific to that creek channel deal.
That's what you mentioned.
Because it happens every year. It happens every year. And there's some important factors to it that you got to understand to do it effectively, because it's a deal you have to fish it so slow that if you're doing it wrong, it takes you a long time to realize you're doing it wrong, because it's not a numbers deal. It takes a long time to get a bite. You got to fish this jig so slow that you can waste a lot of day fishing dead water if you're not doing this correctly. First, another product plug, 6 cents hybrid jigs. Guys, I fished jigs a long time, and San Antonio's jig is great. It is great. But you will not find a jig that will marry the value of being weedless and hooking the fish correctly better than that hybrid jig from 6 Cents Fishing. If you order it from 6centsfishing.com, you can punch in this code. Your Lake Fork guy get a 10% discount. I'm legally obligated to say that. But no, it does. If you look at the head, the deal when you're looking at a jig, and San Antonio's jig accomplishes this as well. The head of a jig, if you hold it with the hook pointing up and you're looking at the front of the head, so the head's facing you, the hook's like this, right? That head needs to be wider than it is tall. Okay? And the reason why is because that's going to dictate how it comes out. When you set the hook, how it's going to try and come out of the fish's mouth. Okay? If that head is longer this way than it is this way, well, when it wants to come, so it's shaped like this. Well, when you set that hook and that fish's mouth is like this, it's going to turn and come here, and you're going to hook a lot of fish right here. And when you're only getting a handful of bites a day, fishing for big fish in the creek channel, you hook 1 or 2 in the corner and lose them. It hurts real bad. So you want that jig that's going to get them in the top. Well, any jig that's wider than it is tall will help with that, because if it's wider this way, so if it's more shaped like this, when that fish's mouth is here, it's coming out like that, and it's getting them right there. And that jig head on the 6 Cents is shaped like this, right? Like, it's a little flatter on bottom than I can make my hands, but the top of it's shaped like this. So it's always coming out from this angle to this angle. That means that hook is in that position. No matter how it comes out, that hook's somewhere in the top of his mouth. On top of that, because it does have those angles to it, it's absolutely one of the most weedless, snag-free jigs you'll ever find. And now I'll tell you why that's so important. When we're fishing creek channel bends, you got an inside bend and an outside bend. Okay, if you think about this, back in the day before this was a lake, when that water flowed down that creek and made that turn, all that water pushed up against that outside bend and washed it out. Who deer hunts? Who gets out in the woods? Pretty much everybody. We're all outdoorsmen. Well, when you think about seeing a creek down in the bottom, you know, just an old creek out here in East Texas, when you see that turn in it and that outside bend, it's like a bluff wall, right? But that inside bend will be like a slope. You know what I'm saying? So when we're fishing this jig in the wintertime, we're fishing that outside bend. And the reason why is those big old live oak trees in East Texas like to grow right on the edge of the creek channel. And when that water pushed up against that bend, it exposed all those root systems of those trees. Y'all ever seen them roots hanging out over outside creek bend? So now fill that up with water, and what you have is you have a bluff wall ledge with brush piles that are anchored, virtual brush piles, the root systems, anchored, hanging out over the ledge. Can you imagine if you could go out here on one of these ledges and anchor down brush pile after brush pile after brush pile along the break line of the ledge? Can you imagine how awesome that would be? Mother Nature gives you that in an outside creek bed with exposed root systems. Now, these fish in the wintertime like to move vertically depending on daylight, temperature, whatever. Whatever they can do to go up and down easiest as possible is what they're going to do. So that outside bend's perfect for them. And they love heavy cover. We all know big bass, especially big bass, love thick, nasty, heavy cover, right? Well, those root systems accomplish that perfectly. So now we got to put our jig where? In the thickest, nastiest stuff you can imagine. So now you're starting to see why it's so important to have the right jig. Because if you got a jig that wants to hang up more so than another, you'll spend a lot of time, you know, jacking, and then you got to get right on top of them. You don't want to do all that. So now you know where. Now you know the gear that you need. You got to make sure you got a good jig that's got a good weedless head. The deal is you position yourself on the inside bend. You throw across the creek past the bend. Let that jig go all the way down in the wintertime. Sneak up on them. I'm talking about drag that joker. Reel up your slack, drag it. As you're dragging, that jig will be kind of sliding across that old muck bottom, you know? And then all of a sudden that jig will come up to one of them old roots and go, now you're in the juice, Jack. All you do is just ease up on it, just pull, and that jig will slide over. And when you feel that tension release, you point your rod down, and that jig will and fall down in them roots. And you just bring it up to the next root and fall down in them roots. And the way this wintertime bite works, everybody thinks, you know, how many of you have heard of mushy bite on a jig? That ain't this one. What happens is them fish get buried down in them roots, and you'll hit that root system, and that jig will pop, and you point your rod down, and it falls straight down. And I always use at least a half-ounce jig because I actually want the jig to fall fast. And here's why. When it does this, and he's sitting down here, and it goes zipping right down on top of his head, but he's a dominant apex predator type creature, especially these big female bass. And when that thing zips right here, hey, she can't punch it, so what's she gonna do? And they don't like just suck it in to eat it a little bit. They'll rattle the guides on your rod when they hit it a lot of times.
What's Roddy say? If you ain't 280, you ain't a lady.
That's it. If you ain't 280, you ain't a lady, baby. But yeah, so it's a very
It's a lady.
380.
380.
380. If it ain't 380, it ain't a lady. There you go.
Man.
So that's how you do it. You drag to those roots and you just pull and drop it down. And when you get that bite, it's real important not to hesitate. Because remember, she's not really biting it to eat it. She's biting it because it scared her, made her mad. It's a reaction bite completely. They won't hold it a whole long time. You know, a lot of times they will. Sometimes they'll hold it and crunch it and take off with it. But you don't want them doing that because you're down in all them roots. What you want to do is, as soon as you get that bite, don't hesitate. Just boom, hard as you can, and you got to get them out of that junk. Because if you let an 8, 9, 10 pound fish get you down in the root system,
it's over quick. It's over before it started.
It can, and you lose fish in there sometimes. You'll set the hook and they'll be hung up on it. You're going to get hung up and have to go unhang your jig. Like, it's not a real easy way to fish. But if you want to go out and try to catch quality fish in the wintertime when nobody else can get a bite, there's not a better way out here. There's just not.
I probably should let you talk about the regular jig before I went to the hair jig, because I just wanted to add the hair jig to you. Now, this is a place you would just not fish a normal hair jig. But if you make one special that's got the guards and everything on it, they're just pricey. They're typically going to be made by hand with deer hair, different types of hair. Just something that's different, but
well, awesome, man. You know, we really wanted to try and go all out for you guys tonight. This is our last seminar of the year. 2 weeks from now, we'll be in a new year. We'll be in 2019. There's a lot of big things coming for us in 2019. We've got some new product coming out. It's going to be designed to help you guys be more efficient on the water and get you on fish quicker than ever before. And we're going to never stop trying to help you guys as much as we can. We really wanted to go all out, have all three of us give you as much information as we could, give you some baits, talk about the most important thing we can talk about with Dennis earlier, and just really kind of put on a show for y'all tonight best we could. So we hope that y'all enjoyed it. Stay tuned, man. Like I said, I can't talk about some of the stuff because we got release dates and stuff like that we're kind of nailed to, but we got some big stuff coming in 2019. So it's going to keep getting better. Y'all are awesome. We really appreciate y'all so much. Thank y'all for coming. Unless you got anything else, you good? Ronnie, you good?
I think I'm good.
Ronnie's gone. We'll see y'all next time right here. You're like,